It was a very long time in the making, but I finally had the pleasure of talking to Ted Forbes, photographer, educator, and the voice behind the art of photography. For years, Ted has been inspiring photographers around the world, not only through his YouTube channel, but also with his own photographic projects and teaching. In this conversation, we dive into his journey, his vision for photography, and the ideas that continue to shape his work today. I hope very much you will enjoy my conversation with Ted Forbes. Ted, I think it was like a half a year or 1 year ago when we started kind of planning this recording, right?
So it's been a while.
But yeah, the good things, take time, and now we are here. So I'm so happy to have you on the channel here on
Well, it's
Frame.
nice to be here. Thank you for having me. I've been a fan of frames for a long time. We've sort of known each other online for a couple of years now.
Yeah,
Only a couple. Yeah.
it must be like 12 years, I guess, right?
Probably it was a lot. It was way before pandemic and all that. I remember.
Oh yeah, yeah. Back in the
It's nice
times.
to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. No, wonderful to have you. Yeah, I don't even know where to start because with you, you wear quite a few hats, right? I would say we are kind of in the same boat in this regard. But um, no, exactly. That's actually something I would love to ask you about. I mean, when I think about you, the first thing that comes to mind is you're an educator, photography educator, YouTuber, right? So because yeah, you have become so popular, you have a huge channel going on YouTube, such a great resource. But you are a photographer, you are a writer, you run workshops, so with those different hats. How do you actually see yourself? Who are you when you think about yourself? What's this main role you actually
You're gonna
feel?
ask how do I get it all done, and I have.
Yeah, well, it's another way of asking the same thing. Yeah, no, I mean, like, down there.
Yeah. It's actually a really good question, and the way it started for me is years ago. I mean, and it's even more complicated where I came from before that. But photography has always been, when I was a kid. I think I was 10. My parents gave me my first camera for my birthday, which was a Kodak 110. The little rectangle camera with.
Okay, nice.
Oh yeah, little tiny, and I loved it. I thought it was great, and I went and studied music in college and did other things. And of course, this was in the late '90s, I guess, and I realized, I mean, the music industry was changing so much back then, and I mean, it's changing even more now. But I realized that maybe that wasn't the career path for me, and I was doing other things that speed up to more recently. In 2006, 2007, I started working at the Dallas Museum of Art in Dallas, and I was enjoying that, but I knew that wasn't gonna be forever, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, what would really get me excited, and around that time, uh, YouTube was YouTube was kinda there, but it was, 10-minute recorded videos, and it was mostly bootleg TV and stuff, and it was really bad quality. So that was there, but there was also podcasting. And the first wave of podcasting, video podcasts were sort of a thing. I guess you can do them still, but people don't associate that with podcasting anymore. But at the time I did it, and I thought, and I was doing some podcast projects for the museum, and I thought, well, I would really like to know this whole process and make my mistakes on my own. So I need a personal project to make this happen. And so I thought, I love photography, and I just want to make a couple instructional videos on this, and I want to post them. And back then, you had to write your own RSS file and all that. And so I wanted to learn that whole process. I thought I would do 10 of them, and that would be that. And I'd either delete them or whatever. But as I was posting them every couple days, all of a sudden I started getting emails back from people. It'd be somebody in England or somebody in Europe, and you have the same interest in photography, you're photographers, and that conversation really excited me. And I thought, well, wait a minute, there is a possibility here of see where this goes. And a friend of mine said, "Well, why don't you put your stuff on YouTube? And it's free to do." And I said, "All right, fine." And back in those days, you couldn't make any money on YouTube or anything, and a lot of the podcasting thing were external sponsors. But I had this idea that maybe this was something that I could do. I was good at. And you asked how do I see myself? And I think it was definitely more. It turned into being a teacher or an educator. But I think really what it was just this internet thing where you could share ideas and talk about photography, and I wanted to get other people excited about the things that I was getting excited
Mhm.
and also learning from other people too, and that's when it was it was a really magic moment, and I did for a long time. I mean, in those days, you couldn't it was harder to make a living or money at all doing it, and so I did it for about 7 years, and, at that point, my job at the museum was it was getting really busy, and so was the podcast or the channel or whatever you could say it was at that time. It was turning into a YouTube channel by then, and this was in 2014. This was 10 years ago, and so I made the leap to try to do this full time, and, it worked out. So, it's,
Yeah, it worked out. No, wait. So, but I am trying to connect a few dots here because so the beginnings you mentioned music, right? You learned what did you learn? What did you study? Or what do you?
Well, when I was in high school, I was playing guitar, and, when I started, I wanted to be the next Jimi Hendrix or something. I just played rock guitar, and I
Okay.
loved it, and then later I got into jazz guitar, and so I went to college to study that, and
Okay.
did that for a year or 2, but then I changed my major to composition, and that's what I actually graduated with because I wanted to
Wow.
learn how to write for an orchestra or write, and I got to do those things because I realized even back then when I got out of school, it would be really hard to get an orchestra to play your music, and I wanted to go into film scoring ultimately, and it never worked out, it's okay,
Yeah, but this is very exciting. I don't know. I mean, do you know I'm a classical pianist myself?
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Wow,
I am still active. I still work, part time at the College of Music here in Lucerne,
that's
Switzerland.
great.
So this is I love it when I so many of us in this photography, world are have this music connection. This is beautiful. I think. Do you still play these days?
Yeah, not as much as I would like to, but hopefully soon I'll
Okay.
the
No, and then sorry, and then you mentioned so you kind of thought about music maybe not being your path, and then you mentioned the love to photography. So the love to photography was already there, or you kind of discovered when this? So it started with this first camera.
Yeah, I don't have any formal training in photography. I'm completely self-taught. And so a lot of times in my videos, I'll make musical analogies, and I do in the book too for composition and stuff like that, because that's a framework that I'm familiar with. And really it's all the same. It's just, audio versus visual. But,
Yeah.
that's another thing too that I think you can relate to is with music. When I looked into doing commercial music or film scoring or whatever, I realized I would have to do what other people wanted me to do. And I'm not that kind of a personality, and I was very hesitant about going into photography as a career. I didn't wanna be a commercial photographer. I wanted photography to be mine, to be me. It was my passion. And, so that's where doing this really got exciting because it was a way that I could talk about photography, I could teach photography, and I could essentially do anything I want, I don't have somebody telling me,
But
this way.
I'm sensing here some kind of underlying, like, what is it called? Like, like, oh, I'm missing the word now. The common thread, because you mentioned, you started maybe as a solo musician, training. Then you went into jazz. Jazz is more about, collaborating, working with colleagues and stuff. And then you mentioned YouTube and the whole internet thing, where you said what was really exciting for you was connecting with people. Then you went on to YouTube, where you obviously connect with all your audiences and stuff. Is it not something that kind of is running, is at the bottom of everything? Kind of you love connecting with people, you love
Yeah,
collaborating.
absolutely. I think so. Because I mean, that's the most enjoyable part for me. I mean, what's not interesting is that sometimes, I mean, you can relate to this too, whether you're writing or whether you're doing a video, like I'm talking to a camera, it's a one-way conversation. And that's not as exciting long run. But then, and then comments are really the only way people can talk back to you. So, having started to do workshops, and things like that recently is really exciting for me because then you get to work with people and you get to collaborate and you get to, those things are what, like you said,
Yeah,
that's what really gets interesting.
YouTube is of course a very special thing because like me now, okay, now we are talking to each other, but we are sitting basically, like you say, in front of the camera. The mindset has to be somehow, and you know it, that there will be thousands of people watching you, but not in this moment. So it's a kind of different, like a time shifted conversation, yeah, with those people. It's very interesting, yeah.
It is. And it was very difficult in the beginning because it's like I used to do all my videos, I would record them in one take. I didn't realize I could edit them
Oh.
in the specs. Yeah, so it was, I mean, it'd take 3 or 4 hours to get a video done,
Mm.
but that was always there though too, because it's like people are going to see it, and so you do need to get things need to be good,
Yeah.
and to be up to
This, so. So obviously, I guess you were one of the first, photography educators, photography guys on YouTube. Today, your channel is huge. It's almost a million, followers. Even though today's those subscriber numbers, this is, YouTube is changing things around, but it's a huge channel. Uh, was the idea? Okay, you mentioned you were planning to release 10 videos, but okay, at some point you decided, okay, let's go on with this thing. It's looking nice.
It took a
It's
long
fulfilling.
time.
Yeah, but my question was, so how the moment you formed the very first idea of the channel kind of direction and compared to where it is today, is it completely two different worlds? Like it went in a different direction, or is it somewhere there where you envisioned it?
No, well, it's both. I mean, it's going to be different because you can't envision everything when you're starting out. And that's the cool thing. I mean, I've had opportunities that I didn't think I would ever have. I've met people I didn't ever think that I would meet. And so that makes it kind of exciting. When I first started this, gosh, that is a good question because early on, you're just kind of taking it piece by piece and you're talking about photography. And, there were other moments too. I mean, there was a point too where I definitely wanted to change it because, I used to do like a lot of photographer biographies and stuff like that. And it's a lot of work to research those. And inevitably, I say the wrong thing and it slips through. And I remember I did a video on Ansel Adams and I had the date he died wrong or something like that. And everybody's correcting me in the comments, you idiot.
Just a quick side note. I made a huge mistake. I guess it was 2, 3 weeks ago. I have a newsletter going on Photosnack. It's a small thing when I recommend photographers, and I basically killed a guy who is still alive.
Oh, whoa.
So speaking of mistakes, I got it completely wrong. I did my research,
Yeah.
and today in internet you can fish out many different things, and I got it completely wrong, and the guy is still alive.
I'm done. It happens. I mean, but you have to also remember, I mean, you strive for perfection. But especially in the formats like this where we're having these conversations, I mean, people say wrong things and you get something wrong now and then. And so what? It's a mistake. You can't dwell on it, obviously, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but there was a point too where it was so much work doing a lot of those things that I was at a point where really wanted to start working on my own photography and getting better. So I had to lighten the load a little bit. So I mean, there's little things like that that change in the trajectory. The other thing too is getting into the camera industry and having relationships with manufacturers. That's a double-edged sword. You end up giving them free PR. And I say this carefully because there's a lot of nice people that I've worked with on that side of the fence. But the other thing too is it's just, you probably remember this too. There was a time like in the early 2000s where in the DSLR days, a new camera would be significantly better than the one before it, and film was still a thing, and a new film stock might come out. So there was interest in some of the tools. Today, it's really plateaued. Everything is good, and so those are less interesting to do. But that's what this is what the audience is, and so I have to do those videos to bring people in, and I figure if they come for the cameras and they stay for the good stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. It's yeah. I love your channel. I mean, this is a nice mix. Now, healthy mix exactly. You never expect. You're waiting for the next video, and it can be anything, and it's always interesting. But it's this nice mix of the whole realm, the whole spectrum. Uh, because I want to really talk about you. This is a part, and I find it's a pity. That's why I want to feature it here. You as a photographer. I mean, you photograph yourself, and I have a few images. I prepared a few images from your Instagram account. Actually, just 3 of them. We can look at them later. But before we talk about your photography, just quickly on the whole education kind of photography teaching workshops. The whole story led to the book. You wrote a book, right, on photography. It was last year when you released it, visually speaking.
Yep.
Just briefly, and I will link to everything, of course. We reviewed it over at Frames. It's a great book. It's a thick book.
You have a very nice.
There is much knowledge in it. So how long did it take you? I mean, when did you get the idea, and how long did it take you to work on such a book? It's quite a Bible.
Yeah, from start to finish, it was 3 years. It was a long time. The way it started, I got approached by a gentleman named John Whalen, who his name's on the books as John Whalen Editions. And at the time when we started, he had this small publisher out of Maine in the U.S. And he had been doing coffee table books, things like that. And they did one book with Greg Williams, who does a lot of movie stuff and celebrity work. Greg's fantastic. And at the same time, we reached out to Greg and he reached out to me. And I was very flattered by that. And he said, well, what we want to do is publish the book and blah, blah, blah. And he said, we all thought it would be really easy. What we'll do is we'll take some of the early videos that I did, some of the teaching concepts, and we'll just basically put them into book form. I don't do that. I got to make this as difficult as possible on myself, because I really want it to be good. If I'm going to spend the time to do something, what's the kind of book that I would want to see or that I would actually buy? And so that was the catalyst that got us moving on it. And at first, I mean, we kind of, I had the direction, I had to think that through. I wanted the title and I wanted the direction. And so the whole idea of my music background, visually speaking, being, what is a visual language and what does that entail? It is an ambitious book. And you can't talk about that without talking about composition and color and some of those things. And so it's, it ends up being kind of encyclopedic in that nature. But yeah, it took about a year to do the writing on it, and then we edited it and we went through it. In the meantime, Mr. Whalen sold his company to HarperCollins. And so there was a big deal because it was a big publisher. And I did not get canned. And so they wanted to do my book. And so it was really exciting to go through that process. And it took a long time. It was a labor of love. I did it because I really
So,
cared.
writing a book, like in practical terms, is it like you are sitting every evening or morning, like basically every single day, writing parts of it?
It was. So when I started it, so this would have been, 3 years ago? So this was 2022, I guess, 2023, somewhere in there, 2022. It was that summer. We were going to get going with the book. I came out with the idea and then the outline, the concept, and then I realized I needed to start writing it and see where this went. And I am not a writer naturally, and so it was, I had to get into that frame. So what I did is I have a studio up here. I carved out the entire month. I got my videos done early that had sponsor placements in them, so those would be ready. And so I worked really hard in August, and then I took September off to do the book. And so I would
Okay.
write, 8 hours a day on that, and keep going. And sometimes, I can only sit in a room so long, so I have to move over to the coffee shop with my laptop. Come home, and then it just, you hash it out chapter by chapter, and then things change, and you realize you're missing something that needs to be there. So, you start putting this together. And yeah, it gets so long after a while. And so the other thing too is that when you do a book like this, you have to have an editor. And I had one with the publisher until they sold the company, and then my wife was the editor on it also. And so there were a lot of late nights with that and some rewrites, and I don't know what you're talking about. And it, we used Google Docs on that because your editor can go in and make notes, and then you can go in and see them, and then you can kind of
Okay.
do it that way. So it worked great. But
Nice. I can imagine writing a book like that, or any book for that matter. So you have to reflect on so many things. You have to go deeper. You have to dive into your own mind. Was it this kind of like a, even maybe sometimes eye-opening experience for you, or learning things about yourself, your own photography? What was the biggest, like, kind of, in general, revelation maybe that writing a book, brought your way? Was there something like, a light bulb in any regard?
yeah, it was. I mean, I think for me, getting your ideas, it's kind of like, not unlike, I mean, and you've written too, because you obviously have a magazine that you publish, but, when you're forced to put your ideas on paper, or whether you're making a YouTube video even, and you're forced to kind of like clarify everything. Because I think that's one thing. A lot of us, we walk around with ideas in our heads, and, even things that become manifestos, the way we photograph, our approach to certain things. But then when you're like, okay, I'm going to teach this to somebody else, and it has to be written out, and it has to be clear, it forces you to think about it a little bit more. And so that was really nice to be able to kind of go through and tighten up a lot of things that I had floating around in the brain. So that was a big deal. I mean, by the time I was done, I was really tired of it. It's a long time to work on a project. And now that it's been out a while, I'm okay with it again. But at first I was just like, oh God, what have I done? This is,
So based on this experience, another book in your life at some point?
yeah, oh, no, for sure, for sure. But it's a little different now, Thomas, because what I do now is I have, in Google Drive, I just have a folder with book ideas, and I have about 10 of them in there. And when I get ideas for things or whatever, I just go capture it and put it in there. So that way, hopefully next time, the next book won't require as much work going into it. So yeah.
Wonderful. Ted, your photography. I mean, I was trying to get a hold of, get a sense of Yeah, maybe what's your strongest fascination, in terms of you as a photographer? So it's not so easy, I have to say. I mean, I'm trying to figure out. So what is it? What fascinates you? I don't know, subject matter, genre, whatever, the most. As a
Yeah. So what I was all when I was growing up, what I was always attracted to, where at the time, this was back in the '90s, I guess there were a lot of the gallery thing was really big, and so there were photographers like Keith Carter, who I just completely admired. Michael Kenna, I was aware of his work. I just really love that, where it's like, okay, this is not it's not commercial work. And it's not street photography or something like that, but it's more on the art side of things. Ralph Gibson was a huge hero of mine when I first started. I remember when I first found his when I found the first book of his that I found. I was at a used bookstore one night and it was Ex Libris and it was a book about books. And so I was going through that and it was just like I realized that Ralph could treat the book as an art form. It was like making a print, but it's a book. And so there was all that. Of course, I loved Henri Cartier-Bresson. I loved Ansel. All that stuff. And so I had a lot of influences going into it. I don't feel like I did much for a long time. I got into doing this channel. I enjoyed photographing, but I didn't really have a direction to my work for the longest time. And years ago, I finally had this opportunity to meet Ralph Gibson, and I couldn't believe it. I never thought I'd meet Ralph Gibson. It's like, it was amazing. Um, Very nice to me. We kind of stayed casual friends and emailed once in a while. He knew who I was. He watches YouTube, and that kind of scared me. How did you it before? Yeah. And so it was a big deal when I met him. And later on, I asked if I could study with him. I really wanted to. And he thought, well, why do you want to do that? And I said, well, because I want to focus on my own work and I want to go. I'm going to level up. I want to get better. And so one of the things that he was very insistent on that took a while to understand was the whole idea. He has this thing, the point of departure. And essentially, he has a weird way of describing that. But for me, what it is that you have to have certain subject matter that you use to start and then see where that goes. And it took a couple years, and I have several directions that I work with. But shooting the ballet photos is something that I've really come to be passionate about, and that's been since the pandemic. The whole thing with Japan is another thing that I've been very fascinated with, and so those are kind of the threads that I work with these days. And then there's casual shooting and stuff. But yeah, those are the things that I'm serious about that are my points of departure that I come back around to quite a bit. The dance stuff was just really interesting because when the pandemic hit, we were all at home, right? And I remember sitting up. My schedule was so off. I just stay up late at night surfing on my phone and stuff. And I was thinking about it one night, and I thought, we're going to come out of this at some point, and what do I want to do when we're through with this? And my father is an artist. He paints. And he had a friend growing up who did a lot of ballet work, this guy, Robert Heindel. And I was such a fan of Robert's work. I always loved what he did. And he became really specialized in ballet. And so I thought I would love to do that. Okay, what am I going to do that? I need to know some ballet dancers. And so I started following some of the ballet dancers that from the ballet here in Fort Worth on Instagram. One of them, her name is Alexandra Light, and she is a choreographer. And we're coming out of the pandemic, and she had this a free concert that they were giving at the Modern Art Museum here. So I went over there, took my camera, and I shot a bunch of stuff. Got home, and I tagged her on Instagram, and she was like, she didn't know me, and she got really excited about it. So that's how we met, and now we go out there and do a lot of stuff. So yeah, so it's just kind of that's what I mean by point of departure. You decide you're going to do something. Sometimes it takes a lot of steps and a long, long road.
So, because I mean, you must not know it too. You talk to so many people and photographers that, and I can speak also of myself. I am right now still in this kind of struggle, of trying to define. I mean, I kind of know my interests. I know I know my actually deep down we know it. But you are looking at so many options in terms of genres, styles of photography, analog versus digital, whatever it might be. I'm not even going down to then the focal length choices and so on, right? But do you feel settled today with where are you going, which path you are on? I struggle. I wake up in the morning, I'm still like, okay, is it this or that? I don't know yet completely where I am, and also I am not even sure if it's a necessity. Maybe it's not. Like you say, point of departure, but maybe it's taking you in different direction.
Well, it
I tend to look at photographers. You mentioned Michael Kenna. I mean, the guy, 45 years, square format, black and white. You think like, oh my God, how can you decide on these things and go forever? And this kind of creates, I know also from other colleagues, frustration because we feel like we are searching and we are not settled and we are, yeah. How do you feel these days? Did you find this, you know?
Yeah, and that's a really and it's interesting. I've had the same conversation with a lot of people before, and I think it comes down to two things. I think one, you know, uh, we live in a culture with people who they like to put, especially with art, things into boxes. So you don't want to see you don't want to see Ansel Adams do anything but landscapes because that's what defines him. So he's not going to do sports or fashion. I mean, it would be weird. To do witches. Yeah, and then people want to hear, musicians play in certain styles, or you want to see Michael Kenna, square format, black and white, silver gelatin prints, and Michael's awesome. He does a great job at that. I think that today it becomes a little more difficult. And you can be broader than those things. It's harder for people to identify with it because they want to put it in a box, right? But I mean, you look at, I don't know, we put this in a music term, somebody like Miles Davis who changed his style, or David Bowie many times over their career. I mean, they had the thread of it being them still, that their voice was there. And that it's very uncommon to find people who are capable of that. But at the same time, too, it is like you said, you're spreading it out there and you're following these certain things. You have your point of departure, and that is the fun part because that's what enjoying photography is the learning and the whole experience of it. There's a book that came out 2 years ago, maybe, Rick Rubin, the music producer, and it's called On Creativity, and you'll see it everywhere. It's a huge
Ready, it's perfect.
party ready.
Yeah, really out.
One of the things that he said in there that makes me think about it is that, you know that he's worked with musicians that couldn't be responsible and finish, and his job is to get them to finish the record. But he said at one point in that book that as an artist, your output, whether it's a record or whether it's a photograph, whether it's a book, all it can be is a diary entry in your life of where you are creatively right now. And I love that because Pink Floyd couldn't have done Dark Side of the Moon in the 80s. It had to have been done in 73. Black Sabbath couldn't have done that first record late. Things change and it is where you are right then. Now it's hard to compare yourself because like you look at a band like Led Zeppelin and their first 4 albums are just like seminally incredible. I mean, probably longer than that. They didn't make bad music, it seems like, and, people put that pressure on themselves. It is either gonna happen or it's not, and you can't expect that. I don't think Led Zeppelin were starting out to do that, you know? But same for photography. It's like, you're constantly trying to improve your skills. You're trying to constantly get somewhere new, do something different, find your voice. Those are things that yeah, and I'm with you. I don't feel like I've found mine yet, necessarily. I look at somebody like Michael Kenna, and I do get very envious because I would love to be able to be that comfortable, you know?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I had also this conversation with someone, with photographers like Michael Kenna. We see, of course, his output or the part of his output which he presents to the public. We don't know what's going really in the background. He occasionally mentions that he shoots with his phone, maybe.
Yeah, he's shooting iPhone color.
No, but I love this idea of the diary. That basically what the images you took today, it's you today. So it's like like a journal, right? It's the photos which I felt like taking today. It's great. I like it, and maybe it helps us then. Then we look
The
back.
thing too is you have to remember Michael Kenna is and Ralph Gibson is the same. I don't know Michael, I do know Ralph. I mean, those types of photographers, they do become a brand, and in a way. And I don't mean that in an ugly corporate way. It's just, but they know that people want to associate them with a certain type of thing, and generally they'll find it, and then they're very careful about, like you said, what gets released to the public, what goes in books. They tune to that brand too, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not. I don't see myself as a brand in that way. I don't know. I'm also not selling my work, so that there's another component to it.
Yeah. No, it's nice. So, I think the main thing is, yeah, we should hope to keep enjoying this, just So I think it's the main driving force to even hoping about creating a nice image, right? Because without enjoyment would be not difficult.
Yeah, if you got to the end, it wouldn't be interesting, you know?
Yeah, let's look. I have 3 images of yours, just random stuff. I will cut it out later. Let's see. I have to share the screen somewhere here. Okay, let's start with this one. It's a very recent one, right?
Yep, I love this one. Yeah.
If you could just share, I mean, 1, 2 thoughts about the image situation.
Yeah, I mean, this is my friend Alexandra that I was talking about earlier. She was with the ballet company. She's left the ballet. She retired, so to speak, and she's probably 30. She wanted to be a choreographer, and she realized she needed to have a go at it now, especially while she can still dance, because she'll probably have to do her own. She'll have to dance her own works. She's a very good friend. This was done the new Hasselblad camera, so this was done a few weeks ago. And I needed some shots. There's a lot of pressure when you're doing something like Hasselblad, because I don't want people to say, "Well, you can't shoot. Why do you have that camera?" You know. So I needed to do something, and so she works. We work very well together, and she said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I kind of want to do something flowy." And she says, "I got this great dress," and so I trust her, and she said, "I'll come over." So she had this dress on, and so literally she's just flipping it up, and that's window light and a black background. We had that studio for 1 hour, and we just went in and did it.
Yeah.
And I got a bunch of shots of that. You know, you kind of wonder what you're going to get from things, and if I can get one shot out of a shoot like that, then I'm happy. And that was
A beautiful dynamic shot, you know, nice colors, nice, beautiful.
yeah. And I was trying to get her obviously with the dress flowing, and I'm just timing it. I'm not shooting continuously or anything, but I noticed that she kind of has this. What I look for in composition are these dynamic shapes that are going on, and you see it's she's almost like an angel or something, you know, with the wings. And so that was what I was going for on that.
Wonderful. Okay, this one, something different now.
Hmm. Oh my, this is a while back. Yeah, this is an older one. No, this is cool. This is a jazz club in Fort Worth, and I was just it's kind of a great. It's such an easy place to set up and wait for people to come by. um,
Yeah, it's all requires skills, you know, and pre-visualizing and stuff.
yeah,
Right?
it's pre-visualizing and it's sit and wait, and so and I've shot other things there too. So they're walking into that's an elevator right there, and it takes you to the basement where the club is. So it's and that sign's great.
Yeah, I wonder the color
It's
balance.
not there now because the elevator's been broken for a while, so you can't go in that way. It's there, but you won't get people going in, so
Yeah, very, very cool. Shot nice. Okay, and here I think we have some ballet. Is it ballet?
it's Ava Rose, yep. Yeah, so this was this year, this was in New York. I taught a dance photography workshop, and, the way we did it is I hired Alexandra, who was in the previous photo that we looked at. She came along to co-teach it with me, and I thought that would be a really cool experience for photographers, to take a class, to be able to get the photography things from me, composition, the technical things, and then Alexandra would teach things to look for with dancers. And so one of the things I was working with students with is slower shutter speeds. And so it's a technique that I do. It's really tight. So she's moving, and I think may have been kind of turning or something like that. And what you want to do is look for something that you want in focus. And so I'm shooting at 1/15 of a second, and I'm just going for her head. And you're never going to get it perfect. So you kind of move the camera to follow her head during that 15th of a second. And you don't get it perfect, but what you get is this effect where things will be really blurry, and then what you're focusing in on is going to be less blurry. So it creates enough of an effect to where you can heighten that out. But that's Ava Rose Dillon. She's a wonderful dancer, and yeah, so that was one of my blur shots from that.
Yeah, no, beautiful. This one, I mean, the choice of black and white, I love it, and also it would look stunning in print. You know, like print. Do you print your images?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I have a print of that in there too. Yeah, it's kind of fun because the studio that we rented to do that workshop was not the most beautiful place in the world, and that room that she's in right now, it has a cyclorama wall. So you said one of those white walls that
Mhm.
and it hadn't been painted. It had footprints in it and stuff. So I thought, "Well, I'm gonna go for blurry stuff, and I'll shoot it in black and white, and you won't know the difference."
Beautiful. I love it. Love it.
Nice.
So, absolutely.
That was a fun shoot. I
Yeah.
enjoyed that.
No, Ted, wonderful. I mean, it's you know, I really appreciate you for everything what you are doing. This is amazing stuff, and I feel the passion, and it's just crazy. Your life must be crazy. I can only imagine how many threads and, you know, and meetings and recordings and everything going. I don't know how you manage that. You getting enough sleep these days?
Neither. Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Oh, yeah, the hardest thing for me, and I'm sure you go through this too, it's like you get busy, you wear so many hats, you do so many things that when you do want to try new things, finding time for those is very difficult.
This is tough. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure you know that. So that's what I'm working on is trying to well, and like I said with the book, I just took a month. It's hard to do, but
yeah. You have to really decide and block this time, and otherwise, it's very difficult, right? I would love to wrap up with one question, which is a difficult one. But you are the right person to ask. I mean, you talk to everyone in the industry, starting with artists, photographers, you talk to gear companies, you talk to photographers, amateurs. You get the feeling of the industry for sure, your feeling. So my question is about the feeling, about photography in 10 years from now.
Good question.
I mean, and of course, it's a very general question. We should maybe specify what kind of photography, but like in terms of,
Yeah, the state of everything. Well, I mean, I know where you're going with this because it's, people get afraid of the AI thing. Where are we going to be? The frustration that I have, to be honest, I'm not afraid of AI at all. I think people will have a desire to create things, and so of course that
same here.
yeah. What are you going to quit because AI? No,
Yeah,
no. And there is concern of that. One thing that concerns me, and maybe in a small way, but the camera companies dominate the industry, and it is in their best interest to make you think you need a new camera, and that will solve issues that you have. I also think that photography education could be a lot better. I would like to see more people just get interested in and realizing that photography doesn't belong to any of us. We're participating in this thing, and it goes all the way back 200 years to that photograph of the roof that Niepce took, and you're part of that lineage. And so look at it that way and get excited about it that way, and you're going to do your own thing. So I mean, it'll be fine. I don't think that photo books are going to go away, which is interesting. Because you're in the publishing business, it's a tough industry right now. People don't buy books like they used to. They don't. It's just not. But at the same time, it's interesting to me because the photo book, especially the portfolio, has always been around. And I read, I have a book on Japanese photography at home, and Ann Wilkes Tucker, who's one of the curators, or she's retired now, but she was at Houston Museum of Fine Art. And she wrote in there that a lot of the guys in the 60s, photography came to Japan, same time it came to America and everywhere else. And for some reason, America and Europe is where everything took off. Those are all the photographers the names they're either European or they're American. She said, how many photographers can you name that are Japanese? Well, probably fewer. How many Chinese photographers? How many Korean photographers? How many South African photographers or Russian photographers? Or, the list goes on. And it got my attention. But she said, one of the things that, because photography took so long to be accepted in the art world, especially in a place like Japan, these guys couldn't get museum shows, so they'd make their own books. And that's what they would do to get their work out. I think there is a desire for people to want to do that with their own work. I think things like Instagram certainly shape the landscape, but I'm not worried about that necessarily because I think Instagram started out as a photography thing, and now it's all kinds of stuff, and it's not an art gallery. People want to see the process. And then
Okay. Uh-huh. So we'll be walking around with our cameras in our hands in 10, in 20 years. So
I hope
that's
so. Yeah.
will be like interesting to see what kind of cameras this will be, right?
Well, I will be, and I know you will be. Actually, what's interesting too is I see younger people all the time. The whole Gen Z people, like in their early 20s, they love film. I was at the coffee shop the other day, and I'm there every day, so I know all the employees. And one of the guys who's working there, he's about 20, 21, something like that. And he said, "Hey, I have a question for you. If I were going to get film developed, where would you go?" And I said, "Oh, I do know a lab, blah, blah, blah." And I said, he goes, "Oh, I got this old cheap little point and shoot." And he was so excited about it. And I'm like,
Yeah, so I see the same here. Many young people, getting back to film and stuff, and looking for the retro. This is nice. So that it's actually very positive signs, right? It's nice. Yeah. Okay.
that kind of thing makes me feel better. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, good thing for your channel. It's
yeah, I got to do film again. I haven't done film in probably 3 years.
Ted, thanks so much. So happy it finally
Thank
took place. And yeah, we stay in touch.
Well, this was an honor to be here. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of frames, and I think you do a wonderful, wonderful publication. And I think you're
Thank you so
on the
much.
great side of things. So,
Yeah, thanks. Same your way. And yeah, thank you. We stay in touch. Yeah.
definitely.
I will be linking to everything down to those of you watching. And yeah, Ted, have a great day.
so much. You
Talk
too.
soon. Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye bye.